On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
All right, everybody, today's episode of the podcast is another group episode. I'll have the guys introduce themselves, and then we'll get going. So we'll go Joe first, and then Garrett, just organization, position in the org, how long you've been around, and then we'll get it going, guys.
How's it going? I'm Joe Hudson. I am the AA strength coach with the Boston Red Sox up in Portland, Maine, and the older brother of this guy.
I'm Garrett Hudson. Just finished up my first year with the Tampa Bay Rays at the FCL level. Been at it for 1 year. I'm excited to come back for my next, starting in January.
Guys, Joe alluded to it here, but the theme today is brothers in pro ball on this group podcast. I have not done one of these. I don't even know if there's any other set of siblings in pro ball. So this might be a little bit of a lighter one. Not maybe X's and O's, but just a good time to kind of chat and maybe talk a little shit with each other. So first one, let's introduce ourselves, your journey, and then who influenced who in the field of like exercise science, strength and conditioning. So maybe Joe, you can go first since you're older brother.
Yeah. Honestly, when I went to school, I knew I wanted to do something with athletes. I played college baseball, and I saw what training did for me in my performance and helped me in my early career, or my early athletic career, I should say. And so I knew I always wanted to do something in that field. And when I got to school, I wanted to play baseball, and really I found the closest thing that I could find as a major, and it was athletic training. So I was like, athletic training athletes, like that sounds like what I want to do. So I got into that and was sadly mistaken that was not what I wanted to do. All the credit in the world to athletic trainers, but that wasn't for me. So I changed my major after my first year to exercise physiology instead. And that's really kind of where I started to realize the training side of thing, how the body worked and everything like that. And which is ultimately transferred me into this strength and conditioning career that I have. I was fortunate enough to sit down with an advisor of mine who had done some strength and conditioning stuff in the past. And he was like, no, this is what you sound like you want to do with your life. So he mentored me with that stuff. And ultimately, here I am, strength coach, almost actually 10 years later. I first started, my early strength and conditioning career honestly started with Garrett as my guinea pig. I think all of us strength coaches are first, our first client is ourselves, and you learn how to train yourself and what works and what doesn't work, and, apply the things that you're learning from the books and, from your other experiences. And, honestly, Garrett was my first, my first person other than myself that I started to practice on. So, hence his better physical capabilities than myself. They all came from me to begin with. That's about it.
Garrett, him training you, did that get you interested in like going into strength and conditioning? Had you had that beforehand? Was it your playing career? Like what pushed you towards this field?
Yeah, I mean, it was, my path is almost precise to what Joe's was. I don't know if that was coincidental or not, but we're both baseball players forever. And yeah, I mean, when I was kind of just getting, we're 6 years apart. So when he was graduating college, 22 years old or so, I was, 15 or 16. So that's kind of, as we know, it's a very, not vulnerable, but a very receptible age for strength training. and I was a football player in high school as well. So, my velocity on the mound jumped like 5 miles an hour each year that I was training with Joe. So that was a very clear indication that strength and conditioning is, worth your time. But honestly, I really, towards the end of high school, I started to realize what I could kind of impose my power on dudes on the football field. And that was fun. So that kind of, made me fall in love with the weight room a little bit more. Just because when you see it applied or very easily transferred into what you do on a daily basis, that makes you buy into it a little bit more, in my opinion. And then, when it came time, I got a scholarship to play baseball at Merrimack College. And when it came time to select what my major was going to be, it was kind of just obvious, just like Joe said, is, I know I want to work with athletes. What does that look like? 6 years before me making that decision, strength and conditioning wasn't quite as big as it was even just 6 years after when I was making that decision. So, I knew that sports medicine or exercise science, I think it ended up being called exercise science at Merrimack. It was kind of obvious. And just going through, my freshman prereqs of, anatomy and physiology and stuff, I fell in love with it even more. Just learning like the ins and outs of how what's attached to the scap and how that impacts how the arm works. And me being a pitcher, I'm like jotting down notes, and I've never been a note person. And, it just had that really easy application to what I was putting all my time into outside of the classroom. So it was just, it was a no-brainer. I never hesitated to continue on that path. And, since graduating, I've had some experiences that weren't so positive, and I've had some others that were just great learning experiences. And, I attribute, where I'm at now to all those experiences. So yeah, I'm very happy with not really having to make any decisions moving up, because Joe kind of just did all that for me, and showed me what was available through that route. And I'm very happy to be here. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel my youngest brother, we're like 10, 11 years apart. He's getting into college now. I think he's in his second year of college, in junior college. And, my dad and I talk, and he's like, yeah, he wants to follow in your footsteps. And, when I was, I'm the same way, Joe. Like, I would put things on him and be like, here, try this, try that, try that. And then like for me, like I had some years in the field, and it was more of like somebody had just given him a general program for the off season. And I was like, no, do this, try this. And like, he got bigger, he got stronger, he got faster, he plays football, he plays baseball. And like, it's kind of the same, like you're saying, Garrett, like he sees results on the field, and like people are taking notice of him as like a player, his physique, his build. And it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, and then he sees myself like moving up the ranks in professional baseball, and he's like, well, I want to do that too. So I feel the same way about both, like with you two, just talking to you guys. That's kind of why I wanted to set this one up. I have a little bit of this feel in my life where I'm like, I did all the hard work. I went through all the trials and tribulations, and now like my younger brother wants to do the same thing. And he's just learned from all my mistakes, and like now he's probably gonna like skyrocket through the system or whatever when he decides to get in. But no, it's cool that you guys kind of influence each other, and you're able to see each other like just growing up. And I think that like 6 years apart is kind of an interesting sweet spot of like you said, Joe, you were just kind of in college, you were just starting training. And then Garrett, you were at that age where it's like perfect to put good quality training on. And then like you guys both kind of grew together. So it's cool to hear that story. And it's cool that you guys both ended up in pro ball. And, talking off camera, we were saying at some point, Garrett's just going to bypass Joe here really quick. So hopefully not too soon, Joe. I don't want to, I would feel bad if he jumps you, but you never know.
It'll happen.
We're going to try.
So do you guys talk shop a lot now that you're both like in the field, and it's less like Joe putting his ideas on you, Garrett? Now you've gone through college, you've both been in pro ball. Like, do you guys share ideas? Do you talk shop, or are you guys like, no, I don't want you to know what we do over here, and I don't care what you say?
I feel like we don't talk a ton of shop, especially like this year so far, but we definitely have in the past, like, going I think we talked more shop like when Garrett was in school and I was in the
Right,
field.
in private sector for sure, a little bit more.
It was like just more of like, hey, I'm learning about this. Have you done this? Or hey, like I just learned about this. You should look into it. But I feel like now it's a less about talking shop, or at least early on in this kind of like new relationship status that we have with us both being in. I feel like it's less about us talking shop and more about just like catching up and, you know, just talking about like family and stuff like that. When Garrett comes down, it's like to see the kids and hang out and just, do more like of that stuff. But I'm sure, honestly, I was thinking about this one, like I'm sure that there'll be more shop talking in the future, like as we continue to become more established and, try things out and all that
I mean,
stuff.
I'm personally, I'm kind of, this is my first year in pro ball. I don't want too many tips or hints. I want to kind of, I want to learn for myself and see, I like to be, and I hate that this might come off the wrong way to some people. But I like to be that more laid back, kind of let the athletes show me the route a little bit more, and be a little bit more reactive. So, what comes with being a little more reactive is kind of learning personalities a little bit more and learning what your resources are outside of the weight room and how that can impact, how you communicate with players. And, that's a lot of stuff that I kind of learned. And, like Joe alluded to, we don't regularly just kind of jump on the phone and talk about, whatever research just came out or, some conference that, which coincidentally, we're probably going to go to a conference together this winter, but, we don't typically spend our time communicating about that. I do think a lot of that is because I'm kind of independent in nature and I want to learn things face value without any sort of, preceding like understanding of it, or if that makes sense. I want to take things as they come and then react to them and learn that way and, be my own strength coach. And I think that is a success. I mean, after my first year, I think that is a successful or was a successful approach to doing it. I felt that created a really good relationship with a lot of our players and a lot of our staff, both with strength and conditioning and outside of that with baseball skill stuff. So, I mean, I would advocate for people to try and be like that. I don't want to be just taking someone else's, approach to it. If I have questions on, like, if I'm at an affiliate next year, I'm going to be talking to Joe before I talk to anybody else about how to manage, communicating with other strength coaches on the opposing team, or, food orders or rehab or whatever I might need some tips on. Joe's obviously going to be the first person I'm communicating with about that. But yeah, I don't think you ever did an FCL. You did some ACL stuff.
No, I did. I did same thing. AZL.
Yeah.
Just out there and then a short season.
Yeah. When I think about my brother, and it's funny because, like I said, my dad is the one that has been telling me that, my brother wants to follow along and get into sports and training and all of that. And I haven't really even heard it from him. And I don't know if he wants to do PT, AT, S&C. And I kind of feel the same way. Like, if at some point when we both get established, like maybe we'll have a more like work type of relationship where we can bounce ideas. But I'm with you, Garrett. Like, I want him to be his own guy. I was my own guy coming up, and I kind of have my people that I lean on and ask questions. And I think for you, like, developing those people within your own corner, like Joe's always going to be there, right? Like, if nothing else, you have a fallback, but like, I don't think you should just use your fallback right away. Like, develop the relationships with other people, develop, both professional and just friendly. But I have kind of a group of people in my corner that I go to if I have specific questions. And then, if worst comes to worst, I always have like our strength staff. And I'm not saying anything bad about our strength staff, right? I think all of our staff is really awesome, but it's good to branch out elsewhere too, right? And I feel the same for my brother. Like, I don't want him to really come to me and just get spoon-fed answers. Like I want him to earn his way through. And then when he's gotten to a point where like he feels he can talk to me and I can talk to him, we'll probably have that. And I know you're alluding to that, Joe, like saying once you're both more established. But right now it's, I agree with you guys. Like it's catching up, just family stuff. Like I don't see my brother a lot. So when I see him, like I don't necessarily talk to him about, oh, did you see this new strength and conditioning research or this physical therapy technique? Or no, it's like, are you doing all right? Do you need some money? Like, are you eating? Like, is college okay? You know what I mean? It's just catching up family stuff. So I definitely understand what you guys are saying. And I think you're both doing it right from both sides of the coin there, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry, I'm just going to talk in circles if we keep going on with that.
It's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So on the other side of that though, do you guys ever have any animosity towards each other, or is there like any playful banter? Just like, hey, Red Sox are doing really well.
Yeah.
Rays are struggling.
I think
Rays are in the playoffs.
we both put up an Instagram in the spring when Joe was with a big league club and came up for a game at Port Charlotte. We took a picture on the field, and I think both of us captioned like something, slighting the other team. At least in both of our positions, we're both sitting at home right now. So, yeah, I mean, there's no animosity. I mean, I don't know if we were closer in age, maybe there would be, but 6 years apart, like you said, it's kind of that sweet spot of, I mean, yeah, we were separated enough for me to still get my ass kicked a little bit when we were a kid. And then, far enough apart where, he, whatever he told me to do as an athlete, I was just going to do, because I'm not going to question my older brother right now. He's like the king because he is helping me surpass him on in athletics. But yeah, I mean, there's never been any sort of animosity. I mean, maybe you got a different answer. I doubt it. But, from my perspective, there's never really been anything aside from that one Instagram post in March.
Come in hot, big brother.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
It's only been 1 year and we haven't played each other in the postseason yet. So when that happens, like we'll have to do a second, a follow-up episode to this. But in all honesty, like, we didn't make the playoffs this year. The Rays, obviously they did make the playoffs, and I found myself like, I hope that they do well. It'd be good for you. I was lucky enough, like we'll say the animosity that I do have is that like I have a World Series ring and you don't. So I can hold that over your head for however long that takes. But I was lucky enough that the Org won a World Series my first year. So, I would pull for that for sure, because it's a cool opportunity, cool experience, and all that stuff. But when we're both in the playoffs, like Thanksgiving, like there's going to be some Thanksgivings in the future that might not be as as pleasant, but it's all all in good fun. But I do have this that I'm holding hostage right now, since
I was gonna say I forgot my sweatshirt yesterday.
I could potentially burn it. We'll see.
It's my favorite one. It's the only Lulu gear that I got this year. So.
It is nice. I was thinking about taking the logo off of it and just
you could probably just repurpose it into something else.
I feel the same with like the playoffs, Joe. I have a lot of friends all over baseball in different orgs. And so like for me, when we got eliminated this year, I was like, I'm not watching playoff baseball. Like I'm pissed that we didn't make it. And I'm not happy, obviously, that we're not in it. But then as soon as the playoffs started, it was like, all right, first game I'm watching. Like we had it on.
Baseball, right?
Yeah. And I told my wife, it's like, nothing's better than playoff baseball, right? And October baseball, and you want to be a part of it. And sometimes you're lucky enough to be, and sometimes you're not. But I have friends all over the game that are in the playoffs, and some of them are experiencing it for the first time. I got to experience it for the first time last year, my first year in the big leagues. And it's like, I remember how exciting that was and how cool that was for me. So like I root for them and their teams to do well. And some people may not like those teams and things like that, and I'm not going to go out of my way and like, yeah, I'm a big fan of this team, but like I want my friends to succeed, right? And so for me, it's cool to see them, and obviously if the Rays are in the playoffs and the Red Sox are not, or the other way around, like you guys got to at least cheer for each other's teams if your team's not in. But if both teams are in, and especially if we line up to play each other like we did last year, then yeah, I would say no holds barred at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Oh yeah.
Last one I got for you guys, just what are your individual ultimate goals? Either within this game, or maybe you don't want to stick around in this game. And then do you guys ever see yourselves working together, whether it's in professional baseball or outside of professional baseball, a private setting that you guys might open up together, something like that?
Yeah, I think for me, ultimately getting to the big leagues, hopefully before he does, would be the goal. We're still working that direction. And I do think we've talked about it in the past, like working together. I do think it would be like really cool and a very unique thing for us to be working together. I don't know how that would work in terms of, how they, hirings go and stuff like that, to actually make that be a realistic possibility, having family members working together. But I think it would be a really cool thing for sure. And, I don't know if anyone necessarily, I know for me, like, I'm not going out into the field searching to be like the king of something, or to be the first to do whatever. But I think like something like that from a family perspective, it would be very cool. Like, how many times have there been, strength coaches, people in this field that have reached like the highest levels, and they've done it together as, as brothers or family members, whatever. And so I do think that would be pretty cool. And we have, we've talked about, I've tried to get him to come in on my former business. And I just think that timing wise, he was just kind of like coming out into the field and wanted to get his feet wet and kind of carve his own path and stuff. But I could see that being something in the future too, either like a remote thing, or maybe down the road, like we have a side thing that we kind of cooperate together. But, I can't speak for Garrett on what his ultimate career path is, but I think, eventually down the road, like maybe after our big league careers are over or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we've always, that's always been kind of a thing it's funny to me because, I think when I was like a junior in high school, I had some like financial planning project that involved, a big business idea. And it was, this big, massive facility that, we had, a Hudson Brothers strength and conditioning or something like that. And that was just kind of a thing. I was in high school. I didn't even really know anything about the field, or, that it's a massive time commitment to just try and create a small time strength and conditioning business, and takes a lot of effort, and a lot of people willing to pay you to come and train. So, I've kind of, I just came out of a private sector full-time position where I was running everything, and I loved it for about 8 months. And then I was like, yeah, this, the whole pay to play concept is kind of sucks. I want to coach people that want to get better, people that want to play at a high level. So I kind of threw the towel in for the time being on the private sector. Any aspirations for the private sector anyway. Regarding us being, at any point in time, if it's ever possible, at the big league level together, I think that would be freaking awesome. I think it would be unique, and I think it'd be a fun experience for us to both have together. And I mean, above all, I think it would be very effective. Like, I think we, we communicate well when we do communicate. We both identify that as something we should get better at as family members. But when we do communicate, especially about the field, I think we're very productive and very effective in what we what we kind of turn out. So I think, yeah, if we were able to be at the big league level together, I think that would be awesome. I hope that could become an opportunity someday.
Is there appeal in being like together in the big leagues or separate in the big leagues? You know what I mean? Like see each other from across the lines, or would you rather stand on the same line?
I think both. I mean, I think it would be really fun either way. I mean, I didn't even think about being, in opposition at the big league level. Yeah, but I mean, I think that would be, talk about the animosity question. I think that'd be very fun. For sure.
Joe?
Yeah. Either one. To be honest, like I didn't even think about it like being against each other. It would be fun. It would definitely be fun. Either way, I think it would be fun, and it'd be cool to, know that ultimately like we followed the same path, right? But like we got there kind of different ways, and like without, like kind of Garrett was saying earlier, like he's learning his own things, he's making his own mistakes, like he's seen some of the mistakes that I've made, so he knows which kind of things to steer away from, but he's kind of learning things in his own way. Like for us to be able to both like organically grow and be in the same, get to the peak of our field, right? And ask us, we both probably said when we were younger, like we both wanted to be professional baseball players, and we both weren't good enough. He was better than me, but like we both weren't good enough to get to that level. So, what's the next best thing to do is get there as a strength coach, right? So, we'd kind of be like still achieving our goals, our individual goals, but kind of doing it like our own way. So I think that would be cool. I mean, as long as I can probably say confidently, like as long as you're not working with the Yankees, it doesn't matter. But being from New England, like, growing up a Red Sox fan, I don't know if you're gonna, I know I'm not going that route, but
I guess whoever's gonna get us more rings, right?
Yeah. That's how I was. As a kid,
somewhat up to us.
I grew up in New York as a Yankees fan, and now here I am in the the big leagues with the Red Sox. I think some of my friends are like, "Dude, you wanted to play for the Yankees as a kid. What happened to you?" I'm like, sorry, buddy. Sometimes things change. But guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on. I think this is just a fun talk to have, and maybe in 5 years from now we can have a follow up to this and see where you guys are at, and hopefully you're both in the big leagues either together or on opposite ends of the opposite lines there. But it'll be cool to see how you guys develop and how you guys go. And Garrett, especially for you, first year being in pro ball and seeing how quickly you can jump Joe and rub it in his face that you've gotten to the big leagues before him. But no, I appreciate it, guys, and we'll definitely be in touch. And stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's going to conclude our episode with Joe and Garrett. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know this was a little bit on the lighter side, but there are some really good things to take from this one. And like I said in the episode, it'll be really cool to follow their path over the next few years and just kind of see where they both end up as strength coaches. 3 things that I took from the guys in this episode: don't be afraid to test out what you're learning on yourself. Effective communication can help to create productive relationships, and learn from others, but ultimately you need to be your own strength coach. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.